All right, for those with the computer, do you have your link up? We're going to segment the videos. Okay. All right. Why don't you start whenever you're ready?
All right, so with Group 5, we're going to be talking about design thinking. Last week we watched a video about a firm IDEO redesigning the shopping cart. And we're going to tell you more about IDEO and design thinking which they've pioneered. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of design. Historically, design was considered the last process in innovation. You'd have an idea, developers would develop it into a concept, and then it would go to designers who would basically put some sort of pretty wrapping on it. They wouldn't actually be involved in the whole process. And that's changed, and design is now integral to products and services. This started during the second half of the 20th century when design became more important in innovation. As industries like automobiles and consumer electronics became more important, firms realized that having designers integrated in the entire process of building these products was very important. And design is now important in every step of the development process, not just the end. It's largely due to a shift in economies today. You no longer have sort of big industrial plants making contributions to the economy, but it's a consumer-driven economy where people really care about the design of their products, and design can really make production more important. So now designers designing entire consumer experiences and not just the products that they're buying. So one of the big myths of innovation is this myth of the creative genius, where people like Steve Jobs and Thomas Edison were alone in their laboratories and they somehow just like thought of the iPad with a light bulb. And it's actually sort of very, very untrue. People like Jobs and Edison surrounded themselves with hundreds or dozens of people who they could bounce ideas off of, and they worked through many iterative processes. They used a process of prototyping and testing and refinement. They would prototype hundreds of ideas, test all of them, and continually refine them until they got to this great idea. For example, Edison surrounded himself with the best experimenters he could find and continually went through processes of bouncing out ideas off these people. Again, the myth that these sort of geniuses were by themselves and just came up with these great ideas is totally untrue. So a little bit of the history of design thinking. In 1991, IDEO was formed by two design firms coming together, both of which had been very prominent. One had designed the first Apple mouse, and the other had designed the first laptop computer. They were traditional design firms in the sense that they basically focused just on the end design of products. And in IDEO's early years, focused on design, designing a lot of prominent things, for example, a Palm 5 PDA, Oral-B toothbrushes, steel-case chairs. But in 2001, they began to tackle design problems that were not traditional. A healthcare company came to them and asked them to redesign the way in which they engaged with their customers. A manufacturing firm came to them and asked them to sort of rethink the way they interacted with their consumers. And a major university came to them and asked them to sort of create alternatives to the traditional classroom. And here the main shift is that IDEO is no longer designing products, but designing entire experiences, designing new ways that companies can interact with consumers. And David Kelly, who's the CEO.
By traditional research or surveys, because as Henry Ford said before, if you were to ask people what they wanted, they would say a faster horse, not necessarily a car. A lot of times, people don't really know what they want. They just want a better version of existing products. This is where design thinkers come in. they will observe the customer experience and try to understand the fundamental value and fundamental needs that people have, and try to tackle the problem from that perspective instead. Now, while gathering those data, design thinker would instill those information and try to come up with ideas, as many ideas as possible. Because to have a good idea, you have to have a lot of ideas. So this synthesis required two main components, which is brainstorming and divergent thinking. So in like any brainstorming session, you have to throw all the cards out there. Just throw in any ideas you have. It may first sound like a stupid idea. But again, if you have divergent thinking, then everyone in your group would be from various disciplines. And they may be engineers, they may be marketers, they may be business manager. But with a diverse group of people and design thinkers, you can actually talk about these ideas and arrive at the best solutions from there. And while doing this, you can also incorporate in the third space, which is called the implementation space, or what we call the prototype space. So even back in the brainstorming session, you can start making prototypes, and this can be anything. It doesn't have to be a fancy model. It can just be like a whiteboard eraser, and just make a really quick prototype of what the possible solution may be. And the faster you prototype, the easier it becomes for the group to see loopholes in that solution or possible improvement in that solution. So the faster you prototype, the faster the idea evolves, and from there you can go back to the previous spaces and rethink the problem and rethink the solution. So, so I have described three spaces, and I just want to make clear that the three spaces kind of overlap over time. Like you can start prototyping back in space one of inspiration, and you can prototype the current solution even and try to figure out what is wrong with the solution and what can be improved with the solution.
Here's a case study I'll go over very briefly with you. It's the Shimano case study. In 2004, Shimano is a Japanese manufacturer of bicycle components. They faced a flattening growth for high-end sales within the U.S. As a result, they hired the consulting firm IDEO to search for new ways to think about the broader problems in the biking industry. So like the really broad problems, not just them specifically. So the first thing they did was like the inspiration, and that was they brought together a multidisciplinary team comprised of the scientists, engineers, marketers, as well as IDEO representatives. So they came together and they went out to consumers and got their own personal experiences and insights. So then that they discovered that many Americans are intimidated by cycling today, and that's in a large part because like the retail experience, complexity of the machines, maintaining them, and like the danger of cycling on roads that aren't ready for cyclers. So then there's the ideation step, and that's Shimano wanted to reconnect consumers with the childhood experiences that they had, because they found that they all had very positive like feelings towards biking as a kid. They just don't anymore, so they wanted to know how to like reintroduce that, and they came with several positive solutions like reframing the overall experience. So instead of like competitive, just like goofy, having a good time, and making the bike more user-friendly. So they implemented this, and that they just changed the whole construct of the bicycle to be more similar to how it was when you were a child. So there's no longer handle brakes, you just push backwards on the pedal again. There's not any gizmos and machines to switch gears, like it's just all automatic. And they didn't stop there, they actually changed like the entire like inner workings of it, I guess. So in the store, they changed the strategies to like make it more user-friendly for novices, or they had public campaigns to like make roadways that are more accessible for bikers, and all these things just try to change the entire experience. And there's the bike right there.
So, in short, IDEO's design thinking, strategy, and business problem solving was characterized by a few key ideas that have already been gone over by my other teammates. They always try different things, like get their hands dirty, step out of the box when you're thinking about ideas. They strove to observe and understand people, understand what they wanted, so that in the end, their product would more closely reflect what they really needed. They made sure to use foresight and anticipatory imagination, and they really thought of problem solving as an iterative learning process, like just trying things over and over, getting things wrong, and learning from their mistakes. They also embraced the dogma of failing early and failing often. Failure is not a bad thing, it just helps you learn. And essentially, IDEO's culture is characterized as a culture that embraces observation, questioning, challenges, and discovery. And this is just more generally, design thinking and innovation is characterized by involving design thinkers from the beginning, because these are people that will help you explore more ideas than you would otherwise. The idea of taking a human-centered approach to get the product that the client is really looking for, trying early and often, looking for outside help and input from customers, blending big and small projects, like managing multiple innovations so that perhaps they can build off of each other, even though you wouldn't originally think of this. Budgeting to the pace of innovation. IDEO's entire idea was not that there are steps or like a timeline or anything like that, but rather just different spaces that you're trying to get through. Every project will have its own timeline, and it's get to a solution at its own pace. Specifically seeking out interdisciplinary talent from interdisciplinary programs at universities, because these people are going to be the ones who end up pushing the envelope the furthest. And designing for the cycle, essentially planning your assignments so that your design thinkers will be going from the three spaces, from inspiration to ideation to implementation, and back and forth until you reach a solution. And essentially, IDEO is composed of design thinkers, and to be a design thinker, you have to have empathy. You have to be able to consider the world from different perspectives, and you're able to put yourself in the shoes of many different people, from your colleagues, clients, end users, and customers. You need to have integrative thinking. You need to be able, not only are you analytic, because analytic thinking really is characterized by like a yes or no, right or wrong answer. You need to be able to see all of the aspects of a problem in order to create completely novel solutions. You need to have optimism so that you believe that there's at least one potential solution which is better than the current alternative. You need to be experimental, which means you need to be able to explore constraints in creative ways of taking in completely different directions. And you need to be collaborative, because as we said earlier, the problems that we have at this time are just too complex for one person to figure out. Even Steve Jobs couldn't have created the iPhone by himself. So you need to be able to work with multiple people. And yeah, that's what we're here for.
David? 60 seconds.